Hi, welcome to Artcasters number 115. I'm Joshua Kemble. This is my channel, and I'm here with Scott Serkland.
How's it going, everyone?
And then I'm also here with Noah Oxbass.
What's going on, everybody?
So this is our art show where we basically it rotates between Scott and myself's channel, and then we have special guests. And we thought it would be cool for the next few weeks to have guests who are in the Hundreds anthology, Life in Space, and just kind of hopefully get that anthology over the hurdle on Kickstarter. It's already over the hurdle, but let's get it over the next hurdle because it's just kind of blowing up, and it's a good thing. They've already met their goal. And what do you want to kind of get into that? But before we get into anything, I want to say we're going to have Holly Brown on here. Holly is kind of MIA right now, so we're hoping that at some point she'll join us in the chats or join us on here. But for now, we're just going to proceed with the show, so you guys don't have to wait forever in the chats or anything. So Noah, do you want to kind of walk us through? Wait, oh yeah. That's right. We're supposed to mention where people can find us. So you know where to find me. Obviously, you're on my channel. Scott, where can we find your work?
Well, usually we have our lower thirds, but we're having some technical difficulties, so we couldn't get that to work. I don't know. Ox had his working, but Josh and I couldn't get ours.
For sake, I turned it off.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so you can find me at my YouTube channel is Serkworks. It's SERKWORKS. And I'm pretty much Serkworks everywhere on the internet, Facebook, Instagram, and mostly on YouTube. So,
yeah, and on MySpace. So, Ox, where can we find your work? And then why don't we lead from that to you to just tell us a bit about Life in Space and why people should support it and how it's going.
Right on. I go by Ox. You can find me everywhere under the username Samurai Ox. That's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon. For the last 3 years now, I've been writing my own comic series. I never forgot. Wanted to accomplish one last goal before he can pass along happily. I am currently coloring issue 8. Momentous, like it stops me in my tracks every time I think about it. But over this last year, a lot of us creators got together that have done the Hundreds Challenge. I did it 3 years ago when I started my original comic series. And I did 200 days back-to-back last year. This whole Life in Space anthology, which is on Kickstarter, which is everybody's expectations out of the water. I know a couple weeks leading up to it, we were worried about if we could hit our original goal, smashing that in the first day. Jaws hit the floor. Even us people that I've ran 8 Kickstarters at this point, and I can't even tell you what to expect next. I've got to pull it up right here, and we're at almost 3,300. Amazing, because nobody's profiting off of this, and the better it does, the more books all the creators get. And I think Elf sets this anthology apart, which is huge cooperative, and that we have all poured our heart, sweat, all of that into this book. And it turned out awesome. It took a lot of us out of our own comfort zones. Me myself, because I used my original characters and a new story, but I used them in gray tone, which was a first for me because all mine are in color. Others have done grayscale. I know Gaz has a pin up in there. Awesome OC. Together his first. Which looks killer. I'm so excited to get the book and just see everybody's story. Almost like,
yeah,
poured so much into these stories. So I can't imagine you getting this book and not being able to find something you like, because it's so diverse amongst all of the creators.
We should tell everyone where to find the book too.
Looking on Kickstarter, you can search Life in Space, or you can go to the 100 Days of Making Comics.com. That'll redirect you straight to the Kickstarter page. You can chip in, get yourself a couple books, and be waiting to get finished. Everything, for the most part, is wrapped up. Get the funding, pay for books, and boom, you got them. So I think we're looking about March out to people. So yeah. You guys have any questions about any of that?
you had kind of a cool surprise today. Somebody chipped in on a certain tier. Ox
was blown away. Somebody had snatched up one of my original pages. I had Kickstarter, so there's still one available. The club that have original drawings that are going to be in this book. Additional artists that could offer those pages. We were leading up, and I knew some people had offered original pages, so I was like, you know what, I'll let these go. And somebody snatched one up today, and my jaw hit the floor again. Like, it's just been a constant. Like, it feels a little loose, so I gotta get tightened up.
Yeah, I didn't have any doubt that this thing would go good, but I think it's going better than probably what I had expected. But I wasn't worried that it was going to fund that, you know. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But even like Ox said, even though we have kind of far exceeded our goal, I don't know what we're at now, but I don't know if we're at 3 books each now. We're at least 2. But like I said, I mean, it's going to take quite a bit of money for us to get a decent amount of books, like, because every single whatever tier or whatever that hits, each creator gets a book of their own that they could turn around and you know, market or sell it on their site or whatever. So you know, even though we've met our goal, we want to keep this thing going and going, because it's, you know, it's going to help all the creators out. So, you know, I just did a pinup, so in some ways. It's probably not. I don't know. In some ways, it doesn't seem fair that I'm getting as many books as the people that did full stories. So I don't know. I'd be.
Oh no, I don't feel that's true at all, because we'll put so much into this book. So it is so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm not even in the book, but I'm a fan of it. I've contributed to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the copy. It's like the people who are in this. The cool thing is, like, stylistically, it's kind of unified by theme, but it's like, and it all looks very professional. But it's stylistically all across the board. So you have stuff from, like, you know, like very simple. Kind of traditional cartooning to like really complicated rendered cartooning, and like, you know, silly cartoons to serious ones. And I mean, it runs across the board. So it's going to be a really good collection by a lot of artists who, like, for a lot of them, this might be their first book. For a lot of others, this is just another highlight on top of, you know, some books they've already put out. But it's across the board. It's like, it's a good group of people to support. Now, outside of that, just as an item, it's a good thing to own, you know, because if you're a fan of comics and reading comics, it's going to be cool. I'm excited about it. I want the Kickstarter to go all the way to the end and fund it excessively, but there's also a part of me that wishes it would close today so I could get my copy.
I'm right there alongside you. And speaking to that end, you have so many creators that haven't had any books published, and this being, but also this is already enjoying the whole 100 Days challenge and them trying to take on their comics, because tangible book that has come from the process. Coolest thing about this all, all become friends over these years, and we know it takes for that 100 days, and now having a book for that whole process is cool in itself. On top of that, book made now, like of people in this community supporting each other, like doing awesome things. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
The first 2 days, like once it hit its goal, like going to be in the same book as a lot of these creators, like Serkland, and now like the guys that got me into this challenge, making my own comic book, we're all going to be in the same book together. Like,
yeah.
What's really cool is that all the, and I think this will probably, sorry, I don't mean to step on your toes, Josh, but I think this will probably lead into the topic. But what I'm excited about is this thing being as successful as it is, it's getting more eyes on it, and more people are joining the challenge, that and among other people that have just started taking it. But I'm anxious to kind of see what happens next, like maybe another year or so. If we do another one of these, there'll be probably a whole new crop of people that will be eligible to you know, be in this book and everything. And that's super exciting as well.
Yeah, and like
you know,
it's a huge accomplishment too that it was edited and compiled, and like the guys who put it together just work. It's not just like, I've gotten cheap anthologies in the past, and I can just tell from looking at the pages and the layout, like there was a lot of thought in the design and the layout, so, and the flow of the stories. So it's like a really considered, really quality anthology, and you know, like that's, and then it happens to have just like some of the most awesome people on the planet in it too. So that's a plus too, you know? Yeah, for sure. So the 100 days thing, I'm like, this will actually count as my day 6, I think. Is it day 6? I think it's day 6. Of the 100 days challenge, because I finally, in the last Artcasters, just got convinced by Kevin and Scott to just go for it, and Mike too. Because like I kind of already do that daily habit of comics, but for some reason I had this little mental block. So it's exciting to be kind of entering the fray. But I kind of wanted to pick, I wanted to kind of ask you guys a little bit about your own experiences doing the hundreds for the first time, just to kind of get pumped about what I'm getting into. And then aside from that, like to also kind of hopefully avoid some pitfalls and stuff. And then of course I also want to talk about like Noah, your comics and stuff as well. So, and you know, but I mean, like, do you guys want to kind of share what like getting into the hundreds for the first time? I know you guys have probably shared it before, but what it was like, and for somebody who's just approaching the hundreds, like I'm on day 6, so I'm still in that like woohoo mode. But like, you know, are there things that kind of come up around like day 50 that you like were like, oh, I should have thought of this on the beginning, you know? You know, are there any pitfalls I can avoid, that kind of stuff?
Well, do you want me to go first, Noah?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. So yeah, so I've done it twice now, and I think there's definitely a big difference between the first and second one. Obviously, I was really green when I first did the first round, which is awesome, because I mean, that's what I think a lot of people, that's their first exposure as far as being a creator on YouTube, is taking the challenge. I mean, it was pretty much for me. I had done just a handful of other videos and before I took the challenge, and going from, you know, just posting, you know, I think I had a series of like 4 videos showing how I was creating my Comic-Con booth, and then I had some other live streams that I had done, but that I just ported from Ustream. I don't even know if that's still around, but anyway, so I had been following Kevin for a while through, you know, Big Illustration Party Time and Art and Story and all that stuff, and I did the Mini Comics Dump Truck, which is another kind of challenge project that he started. So when he started that, you know, when he started his round of 100 comics. It was weird because it wasn't really a thing. I think there may have been a couple other people that were kind of doing it too, but it was kind of so early on that I kind of had to email Kevin, or I don't know if I emailed him or whatever, it's a message on his YouTube channel, but just because I didn't even know at that point, I didn't even know it was cool if I took the challenge. I didn't know if I was, if it was his thing, which in hindsight was kind of ridiculous because I mean, obviously when you start something, most people, when they start a challenge like that, they want other people to participate and grow and it to become something, which I'm sure he didn't expect. But so, I just reached out to him and said, hey, this is kind of cool what you're doing. Do you mind if I do it too? And of course he was like, sure. Yeah. The more the merrier. So at that point, there weren't really that many people. I think Marshall maybe was doing it. And then I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I think Peter Palmiotti he's probably started right about the same time I did. But anyway, so
I think Farrell was around you guys too.
Who? You broke up.
Golding?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't too many people. But so anyway, so I kind of just sort of jumped. I kind of had a little plan. Like I don't know how you've gone about this, if at all, Josh, but I kind of knew some different things I wanted to talk about as far as comics. Like obviously, one day I wanted to talk about just concepting and coming up with ideas, and then one day I wanted to talk about thumbnailing and all this. So I tried to do all that, but kind of like what you're saying, when you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, because now it's all, we're into the writing stage and it takes so long, and you can talk a little bit about different things with writing, but it's like, well, what do I talk about now? Because I've kind of used all my main, my main talking points. So at some point I would just film other things that were going on around in my life and stuff like that. But it was still pretty rough. The second round, I really planned everything out. Because I knew I wanted to make it something special, like really put a lot of work into it. And I probably put too much work into it, but I wouldn't probably suggest people do what I did on the second one. Unless unless you've done that kind of thing before, because I also don't want to intimidate people, because I did a bunch of the second round I went and I would batch shoot a lot of the intros. So I would shoot maybe 5 or 6 intros at a time. And then I would go and drop in the actual work I did of the day and load them up and do all that kind of stuff. So I really planned it out, because there was a lot of log footage and all that kind of stuff. But you don't need to do all that. I mean, the main thing is just get on there and make, just, if you can, make a video, tell people what you're up to, and if you feel like going the extra mile or whatever, then you can do some other stuff. But I don't want anyone to think, let that hold anyone back, because the main thing is just to get the comics done. But I was trying to sort of build up my YouTube audience and stuff like that, and put out daily videos and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. What about you, Ox?
Oh, speaking on the completely opposite side of the spectrum, he just jumped in. Didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do it. I think I caught run, going into his second run, and then you were doing it, Farrell was doing it. Gaz had midway with his run, and I just knew I wanted to do it. I had started work on my first comic, but getting it finished, and then I started my first Kickstarter and got it published within that first 100 days, which is wild, because I was shooting on my old iPhone 4S, quality. If you go back on my videos, they're on playlist, but it's just such awful quality to what it is today. And just setting up the camera, filming, talking what you were doing, showing a little of it when you could, but just getting that process done. And to the pitfalls, I think those first 20 days, if you make those first 20 days, it'll carry you. I want to say 40 to 60, I believe the roughest. Because you're struggling with, becomes a real juggling act. At 60, at that point, you're way, and those last 30 days go by like nothing. Was apparent on both my 100 days, like 60, because if you can threshold 100 days out, no problem. And a lot of it comes down to writing or working on making or figuring out the story. And I came in with a very rough outline for these 13 comics I wanted to do of this series. And the first comic finished and done. What an undertaking these are going to be. Like, I think I can turn around one in about 2 to 3 months now, but like, third was probably a good year of making comics. But so rewarding, because now we've got a book, the Life in Space anthology.
Well, some people like yourself have like 8 books, including the Life in Space anthology. So
that's amazing. Like, to me, the only trip, because of the fact that I do comics pretty much on a daily basis already, I'm not super psyched out about it. I'm feeling pretty confident going in, but there is this part of me in the back of my head that's like, that you get like, because it's got to be consecutive to count, you know? And so I'm like, that's the part of me that's like, wow, like, thinking about it, I don't know, maybe I do miss a day here or there, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have taken it and not really done it consecutively. I mean, I think that's super important.
Yeah.
But and you know, again, if you don't necessarily have to put out videos consecutively. Although if you can, I think that's awesome. But
yeah, I think for that first 100 days, it's pretty important, because if you can manage that time, like it's a lot about finding discipline and building those habits that if you do a process every day for those 100 days, like the habits build that you can make comics easier.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like that's the thing, like, so there's a part of me that's not super nervous because I have the habit, you know, but then like it is the fact that even though I have the habit, it's like I still occasionally miss one day, and I'm like, so it's going to be interesting to do. Like, I was talking to a couple of the people who've done it already, and like that's what I was talking about. Was like I might, like, that's the thing. This will be a good way to kind of really analyze, like, have I really built this habit, or am I like missing days I don't need to miss? You know?
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes we think that we're not like either like wasting time or that we're doing more than we actually are, and then if we actually sit down and calculate, you know, what we're doing, it's like, oh man, there is, you know, especially people that say, oh, I don't have the time to do this or whatever. If you sit there and really take a good hard look at your day and what you're doing all day, I think you're going to find time that you could be working on stuff.
Oh yeah. And I think you guys are downplaying how much you guys actually bring to the table, because anybody starting out these challenges, like I did 3 years ago, like actual working professionals in the art industry, like brings its own set of skills to the table that young folk can aspire to, and like kind of things to adjust and not, I don't know, mistakes we could easily avoid by listening to somebody that's been through that trouble. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see your 100 days play out, Josh, because like a command on your date, like your illustrations and stuff, that getting to see the process every day and how much you put into it. Like when you were showing doing the inking the other day, I was like,
awesome. Thank you. That's cool. It's fun. It's like, to me, I want to do consecutive videos as a challenge to myself to see if I can do the videos on top. But I am kind of like, it's weird because I even felt like, well, if I count this as a day 6 video, does that count? You know, or should I edit a video after this? But then if I do that, I run the risk of like burning out.
You got to tell us what you did for your comic making today.
Yeah.
Counts.
Yeah, well, I'm almost done with my panel for the day, so I can do that. Although I'm not quite finished, so maybe I'll cap it at the end of our Artcasters. But like, yeah,
I think you need to tell people how the size you work with, because I'm running about 11 by 17 Bristol. How big are you working, Josh?
So when I started, I used to work like just a little bit larger than size. So like when I used to do comics, most of the comics I did were like close to actual size, maybe a little bit bigger. But then I think it was when I went to this like Masters of American Comics show, and I saw all these originals and of artists I really admire that I used to look at on these little comic pages and be like, how did they get that detail? It's crazy, you know? And then you'd see the pages and they're like minimum like 19 by 24 in size, you know? And so I was like, oh, that's how they do it. Like, you know what I mean? So when I like decided to refocus on like a comic and try to throw everything, all the skills I'd accumulated through freelance, through some comics that were successful, some comics that were failures, book illustrations, all of that. It's like I realized like I don't get the opportunity to work big very often, because you just like, you know, like to me, like the small page was something I developed as an illustrator to save time. Because you have a client who like wants a t-shirt design that you have to hand ink and it's due at the end of the day. You know, sometimes I do stuff at like half size and then blow it up, you know, because it's just quicker. It's quicker to ink. But yeah, so like the 19 by 24 bristle thing, it's like I like that size. I like working at that size because it makes me it allows me to get details that I couldn't get at a smaller size. And when I reduce it, it looks so much better than it actually is. And it's a fun experience to see it like reduced and be like, oh, holy crap, that looks like I'm way better than I am. And to me, if I can do that with every page, like that's the goal. So that's why I work so big. But it's a pain in the butt to scan. You know, that's the only downside.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, I was so happy when I got like a large bed scanner, but even the large bed scanner is going to scan that, like, because mine was like I still have it like this. It's this huge thing because it's a printer and everything, but the printer stopped working. So all it is right now, I use it for the scanner because those large bed scanners are like pretty expensive. So, it takes up so much room on my desk. It's like, well, what do I do? Because I'm just using a small portion of this giant thing, but I don't know. But yeah, even that would be worthless, you know, with a you know, something like that. I mean, I don't know what kind of scanner you're working with, Josh, but I mean, how many different ways? I mean, how many times do you have to run it through to stitch it all together and everything?
So I have a large bed scanner too,
okay.
And it's part of a large format printer and scanner set, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That it's funny that you mentioned that you've hung onto it and you're still using it because the single flatbed scanners are more expensive. That's totally what I found out. It's actually if you're looking for a large bed scanner and a good deal on it, you can go to a couple stores or just look online for like one of those office set kind of print setups and get like a really good quality large bed scanner for like way cheaper. It's weird. It shouldn't be cheaper, but I guess it's cheaper because they're using it as a loss leader and they assume you're going to be buying a lot of ink. I don't know. Yeah,
and that might even be good advice for somebody who's creating comics if they want to spend some money. Because I imagine, you know, a lot of people, once the printer stops working, you know, they'll maybe either drop it off at a Goodwill or like sell it for cheap online, like a used one. And the scanner, usually scanners work no matter, I mean, I don't know too many scanners that break, but the printers will eventually stop working. So as long as you don't mind this massive thing that's going to take up a lot of space, you could probably save a lot of money just looking for a used one.
Yeah, it's like having a bench in your art table, you know, like, and if it breaks, then maybe you can use it as a bench and a scanner. The thing about like the flatbed, like using a large format scanner is really good and it'll save you time. But with these, even the large bed scanner, I have to scan in fourths. So I have to like, I scan, here, I'll show you. I scan like, so I'll scan like this chunk, right? And then this chunk, and then this chunk, and then this chunk, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, Stitcher program though, right?
What's up?
Program that pieces them all together then?
You could, but I found that it's better to do it manually because it's more accurate. So it literally takes like, the scans take the longest and then the piecing it takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then the nice thing is because it's so large, the cleanup time and like the adjusting the contrast to where it's solid black and solid white and it'll print really well. That process goes really fast because I'm working so large that like the amount of like little spots or errors are a lot less because it's easier to be accurate. So like in a weird way, it's weird, but it's like the scans take longer, but the cleanup and making the page actually takes less time. So I think I saved time doing it big, which is weird, but definitely not money because like, you know, the bristle board is expensive already. And then the big bristle board is just like twice as much. So it's not like totally economical, you know, but it's fun and it's cool. And I'll have these originals. There are these massive pages. So like if I ever decide to sell them, you know, I think I could probably sell them for a little higher because they're just, you know, these big pages and like, wouldn't somebody want that in their living room, you know, like a massive page. So
I'm reading right now that you're going the spiral design in. Like, you have such imaginative panel layout that like, but like I'm reaching for your levels now.
Yeah, no, I think that comes out of doing it for a while because I think your panel layouts as well are like super creative and read in multiple directions and stuff and play with different things, you know? And I think that just inevitably happens when you've done like hundreds of pages of comics, you just get bored, you know, if you just stick to like a 4-panel grid. And then like for me, because I'm scripting this out, there's just times where it's like, it'll allow for an exploration of a page. And so like, which I know like Scott has the same thing. Like he's got very like dynamic paneling on his comic. And I think it's just like there are story moments that it's like you're almost forced to, you know, to like kind of get outside the box. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
My problem is like having way too many panels, like trying to cram everything in. I'm not too bad. This page is pretty normal. It's only got what like 6 panels, which is, or 5. That's a lot. I've done some that have like, you know, 12 panels on a page or sometimes even more. It gets pretty crazy.
Do you feel like that limitation on panels is kind of BS? Because there's a lot of people who say you should not do more than 6 panels.
No, and I don't really disagree with that so much, but I just did a whole video on, you know, sometimes you got to break the rules and do things differently. So I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I probably do it more than I should. I mean, there's certain times where it makes sense to do a lot of panels. Like if you want to show like the monotony of something happen, if you lay it out into like, you know, 12 or more panels and not much happening in each panel, it just gives you this idea of a scene that's taking longer and longer and nothing's really happening, and you know, and that could be a good effect if that's what you're going for. But a lot of times with me, it's trying to, and I probably shouldn't worry about staying so much in that 22 pages, but you know, for whatever reason, I keep trying to keep my comic book to 22 pages. So sometimes what's that?
Scott, you got to cut them loose at some point.
Yeah, I know.
One of these times.
But anyway, so sometimes I do try to fit a lot of story into probably more panels than I need to. So, but
yeah, it's weird. I'm thinking back because when I first, like my first comic was all based on a 4:4 grid, so it was just literally 4 panels a page, pretty much. There was one page that had a whole bunch of panels, and then it just went to 4:4, occasionally 2, and then occasionally just a full page spread, you know? And so I started by doing that, like where it was like these really big panels and stuff like that, maybe 3 panels a page or whatever. But then like something happened to my brain when I read Jimmy Corrigan by Chris Ware that just like something popped. Like, and it's like, I think what it was like the idea of a limitation on what can be done, and then seeing how effectively, like you were talking about, Scott, where when the rules are broken, like how effective that can be. And I even vividly remember the panel because it was like the character Jimmy Corrigan, who's like this, he's just this kind of pathetic, like older guy who's balding, and he's kind of like the way he's drawn is kind of funny. He has like these little lines of hair, but he's like sitting and he's like drinking a soda, and it's like a sequence of like, from what I remember, like 16 panels or something of just one action where he just like he's like staring forward, he'd like look to the side, like wipe his nose, and it would just say like sniff, sniff. And then he'd like sip a soda again and put it down, and then sniff, sniff. And it was like such a moment. It's so weird. You have to read the book to kind of get it, but it was such a good character moment because it was sort of showing how bored and like boring this guy's life is. Like that, like he's just kind of quiet and sitting, drinking a soda and wiping his nose, and for him that's a significant moment in his life, you know. I don't know, like to me something about that, just that whole layout, that whole grid, just ever since then it's like I've always wanted to kind of explore beyond just like the standard, but there are moments in the story that I'm doing where it like calls for like a 6-panel page, you know. It's like I think it depends on what you're trying to say. I don't know, like how do you approach it, you know? Like how do you approach it when you get to a page? Like how do you work out like if you're going to do crazy like dynamic paneling, or if you're going to stick with like a standard grid?
So go, and I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of issue 8 because I just have a page that perfectly, and you have my 2 separating from each other. You see illustrated by her walking away and him walking away from the same spot they were standing at. And trying to show off, but like I have this panel broken up that like he waits there for the distance, so it's 5-6 panels just broken up in 6 different times just to show passage of time.
Yeah.
So it's all about the way you want to tell your story.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one trick I've only tried once, and it was for a poster that I want to incorporate in this book somehow, but I haven't found a way yet or a moment where I can. But have you guys seen those Gasoline Alley pages where it's like it's like a forced perspective shot? Oh my gosh, I just blanked out on what it's called. Isometric. It's an isometric shot of a building. So the whole page is like a building, but then the passage, like it's gridded into panels, so it functions as one whole picture, but then the characters moving throughout it make time go by on like one image. Does that make sense? Have you guys seen that?
I think I may kind of know what you're talking about. Or I mean, does it show like? Do you show like the movement lines and everything? Like, is that what you're talking about throughout the house and stuff? Is that kind of what you mean, or is it different than that?
He did a whole bunch of them. The easiest one to describe is like there's one that's just like it looks like an isometric illustration of a neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's panels within the overall photo that are just a frame.
Oh, okay, cool.
Around the characters as they move through this giant page.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. I'd have to see that.
But then there's little other touches, like the passage of time also happens. So it's like, you know, in one scene they're running by a tree, and the other scene they're running by a tree, but some of the leaves have fallen, or it's autumn. It's crazy. It's a cool method, and I experimented with it once for like a poster where it was this couple walking through Central Park. And it's literally from when they're kids to when they're old and dead on one page, and like it ages with time. So it's like it starts out in like sepia, and then it turns to black and white, and then it turns to like these muted tone colors, and until finally it's in full color and it's in the current era or whatever. But it's like I want to do that as more than just a practice. Like I want to incorporate that somewhere in this book. I just haven't found a moment to do it because that's a heady one. Like that's fun to try, but it's also really hard because once again I can't even think of a place where that would work. You know, I could see it in Young and the Dead almost better than in my comic, because I could see that working really well for like a sequence where like zombies are chasing after somebody, you know, because you could have like, but it'd be hard. I don't know. Anyhow, that's just one of my little favorite like tricks that I haven't tried enough yet, you know. But it's the cool thing about comics is you open up this can of worms like with that kind of thing. And it's like there's just endless possibilities, you know, of like how you can lead the eye, like how many panels you can put in, like how you can say like Noah, like you were talking about with that last sequence where she's walking away and you broke it into like 8 little slim panels. Like there's endless possibilities. It's really kind of a fun but overwhelming thing, you know.
I think once you do it for so long, constantly trying to outdo yourself at some point, that find new ways and plethora of good stuff. We're talking in chat right now about Batman White Knight. Sean Gordon Murphy is a high tier of artistry that I want to reach. Like the stuff he does with his quills and is maddening to me. Like he used to put his thumbprint in his inks, and I want to do that too. Like, there's so much cool stuff out here, and there's so many artists doing their own books that you can take from and develop in your own style. That like awesome thing to do right now.
Oh yeah, and the cool thing is like, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I was like starting out in illustration and in cartooning was like, that if you like kind of look at guys you really admire now, like literally if I went to the comic shop today and just bought a bunch of stuff people are currently publishing, and that was all I looked at, my style would look like a cheap mimic of their stuff. You know what I mean? so like one of the cool things to do with that is like find elements of the art, like you were talking about with like incorporating fingerprints and like and like borrow that, you know. And beyond that, like what I love doing is just digging back. So it's like if I look at like Jeff Smith, I really like Jeff Smith, then that's going to lead me to Pogo. And then if I look at Walt Kelly, you know, that's going to lead somewhere else. And it leads you down this rabbit hole of just discovering these guys. They just are mind blowing. And what's weird to me is the further back you go, I don't know, it's weird when comics were first kind of being invented, like especially a lot of the Sunday comics, like the full page Sunday comics. I feel like a lot of cartoonists were less limited than they are now, you know, although it's starting to change because like I think indie comics are having such an influence on mainstream that you're starting to see some of that creep into like the mainstream. But I feel like people are still more stuck inside grids and kind of ways of doing things than I think they were at the inception of the whole thing, you know? Because for me, when I look, like to me, what happened when I looked at that Gasoline Alley strip, it's just mind blowing to me that was done so long ago and hardly anyone does that, you know? Yeah. But it was done like way long ago, you know. Frank King figured that thing out, and like nobody, like, you know. I mean, I do know a lot of cartoonists who do look at that and go like, yeah, I got to do that. But it's to me that's always fascinating when you look back or you look at like little Nemo pages and it's like, oh, this is all over the place, you know. It's to me that's really cool, and that's also, I think it develops your style more, you know. I don't know. I'm rambling, but I feel like that does help you develop your.
Oh, I'm loving your rambling on because you have such dedicated knowledge to that older style and like lettering, hand style. Like it's also wonderful. And like I think if you incorporate this into your 100 Days too, like talking about some of this stuff, it'd just be so.
That's a good idea, man. Actually.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing back when we were talking about scanners. Like it would be cool. Like if you're stuck for ideas or things to talk about. I mean, when you go, I mean, just film your process. Like do a speed video. If assuming that it doesn't take up too much time for you to do that, because I know you're trying to be efficient. But if you film like basically how you scan in your book and put it all together and everything like that, that might be kind of cool for people to see, you know, because I just find the process of creating comics just so interesting, you know, and people, especially people that do differently, you know, so I'd be very interested to see how you take those pages and scan them in, because most people I know are doing the same size pages I'm doing with 11 by 17. So it's cool to see people that are doing something a little differently.
And also if you do a time lapse of you a page, you said it takes probably a half hour to do that. Enough or whatever. Perhaps that's 2 minutes of telling you just what you did, and then link to your video that shows that how you inks. Like that's a video and a half. Like that you have such good information that's in your back catalog that you can even link to your back stuff. Like. That you're going through, because I think that's so helpful, because when I started out with my first 5-6 issues, I had not a full-size scanner, but I had a half scanner, so I had to take these 11 by 17s, put them together, and like that was a whole day process scanning in a whole issue, and like it was maddening.
Yeah, it's weird. So like There's a couple advantages to my process and the disadvantages. The disadvantage of working so big is that it takes like 10 years to scan, you know? The advantage of my process is because I'm hand lettering, the second I've scanned and cleaned up my pages, they're done because they're black and white. So it's like I don't have a lot of pre-press work. When this thing's done, it's literally just going to be kind of readjusting a little bit so that the layout works on an InDesign file, but like not having to add type, not having to add anything. It's going to be done, you know, which to me, that's really cool. The downside of that though is like for instance, the page I'm working on, I usually start with lettering, you know, and then like panel borders. And my wife and her sister were like, "Oh, you made a typo like on that." So I had to like white out and like re-letter specific words and stuff because my wording it wasn't actually a typo, it was just a grammatical error. And so if I'm not careful with my
next time happens, you have to record that.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
it's a good idea. Just show them like this is what happens with hand lettering. You get the good old white.
Yeah, I mean it's the behind that nobody sees or very few talk about, and then you see the original pages that have like little patches covering them, and it's like more interesting because like evolved just to be in this book, and it's so cool.
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff I love.
That's cool. I should get more into that. It's weird. It's like such a time budget thing, you know. Even with this, I'm like, I don't want to do too much editing on the videos because I can see that I've seen people burn out before by overdoing it on the videos, and like to me, I don't want it to slow down my comic. That's the key thing. So, and that was advice too from Kevin and you, Scott, too, and Mike. We're all just like, don't overdo it on the videos because it's about the comics, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I do want to do more videos like that on this channel. I like, particularly like there's a lot of coloring tutorials and stuff that I'd like to get into that you know, tie in more with like what I do professionally. But it's like I'm working on a black and white comic, so there's not a lot of opportunity to kind of show that process, you know. But yeah,
I think you're doing some color work with these T-shirt designs, aren't you?
The one that I just completed, I didn't do any color on actually, so it's just black and white. But yeah, like a lot of T-shirt designs, yeah, for sure. Most of my T-shirt designs are in color. So I should show some quick processes, you know. Like it'd be fun to do a video in one tone, you know.
Well, the Monty Python piece you did, that was in color too.
I do have the raw video file of that, like because I did record that, doing the whole coloring, scanning, cleaning up, and creating the halftones as well.
Yeah. So even if you did, I mean, again, I'm not trying to put more stuff on your plate, but it's that's all up to you when you figure out how much time you can spend. But if you did kind of want to talk about, you know, coloring comics, I mean, it's basically the same process, and you can just say, you know, well, my comic's in black and white, but I do color, and here's how I do color, and you can apply this to comic books or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I think I might
go ahead
during the show. You know, like when the show's up at Gallery 1988. I'll probably cut those snippets into it, but I'm so lazy I don't want to edit it.
Yeah.
Make sure you make notes of these because you still have 90 some odd days to do. Like it's definitely a marathon.
Yeah.
The adrenaline of the challenge will carry you to 20. It's just buckling down and doing it. 60 is just such a to get over, but if you make it to 70, you're home free. So,
all right, I'm gonna keep that in mind because, like, at this point, it seems doable, but the video thing is gonna get hard. That's to me right now. That's my big struggle. But once again, like I'm gonna have to get more creative with my videos because I started and I'm like mid-page when I started the challenge, and then like once I'm done with this page, I got to thumbnail a new page. I got to work on type a little bit and stuff like that. So hopefully it'll be, you know, that'll allow for like more content.
To get more creative with your videos.
Got it.
Don't get crazy.
All right.
And also you upload these pages to Webtoon or
Yes.
I mean, that would be another good process to latch onto because I know there's a few people that have done webcomics that have done the 100 Days Challenge too.
Nice. I should actually find out who they are and then, you know, follow them. I think I'm following 2 so far that are in 100 days. But, yeah. It's not a bad call. Yeah. Any other crazy advice? Like, to me, like, one of my big worries about it is that midway point where you're just like, dude, I need a day off. You know, like, just fighting through that, I think I'm nervous about.
But you can, I mean,
I think the way you have it set up is that you more of just kind of taking the time off because you're keeping track of what you're doing. You have a good routine that you're not going to get, like, you just have to says, oh, I need to relax, because I mean, I know you can set 30 minutes aside to do your comic because I know you want to get that comic out. So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the goal is to try to finish this thing by the end of the year. So this will be very helpful to achieving that goal.
Do you want to get done with the book, or do you want to do it by January 1st next year? That you want to take off, like, just get it done.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, I think that it's gonna be done by the end of this year, like the art probably. But yeah, I've considered that too, of like, this may not, I mean, this is way early on to say this, but I might just make this like a 300 days of making comics, like, you know, 3 in a row, just to get it done, you know. And also it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun challenge, and it's nice. Like, I like the video log element of it. Like, I personally, because I've watched enough of you guys go through it, I love the video logs, you know. They're honestly kind of hard to keep up with, but they're fun, and it's cool to see the whole process, you know. So to me, like, you know, if I'm gonna dip into the fray, I kind of want to do the same thing.
Yeah, and
I love all the different. I love all the different elements of you too, because you have your family life, your professional life, and then you still want to get this comic done. So it lends, like, you're probably the one juggling the most challenge, and I think people that has some real value to it. So 300 days, but I can tell you from my experience, 200 days is a heck of a hard try.
Yeah.
I was pushing for 300 days, and around the 200-day mark, like, everything just started breaking. Like, my computer broke, or my phones wouldn't record anymore. So I was just like, 200 days, we're good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I'm not going to overshoot. I'm aiming for 100 first before anything else. We'll see where's that. Yeah, it's cool though. Like, I can see the benefit of the video element, because initially I was thinking, oh, I'll just do it, but do it on Instagram and just post photos. And I have to. It's nice to have the community involved, you know. And I think the community is most involved on YouTube and with videos. So it's like, it's nice to kind of have that occasional cheerleader be like, yeah, go, you know, do it.
Yeah.
That's like, I think, frankly, I think that's going to be what gets me through the challenge, is like, you know, having that occasional person who's like, keep rocking, you know, that's going to help, I think.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I like it when people do the videos, and like, there was somebody that was doing the challenge, might still be doing the challenge, but I saw their stuff on the Facebook page, and I'm like, oh man, this is great. And I was trying to click on the picture to see if it took me to YouTube, but they weren't doing it on YouTube. I'm like, oh man, I would really dug to see what this person's doing on YouTube, but you know, but that's fine too. You know, if you just want to do your updates on Facebook, that's good as well. But I don't know, there's something about the videos that's really what I get into, and I wish more people would do the challenge, and who are doing the challenge would do the video portion of it.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm blown away you could do it with such high production on your last run. Like, Scott, it was
it was very thought out. All I can say is, like, I mean, I had a plan. I don't know, and it might have broke me because I don't know if I would do it again like that. But I'm glad that I did it, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But it was, yeah, it was. I mean, because there was, you know, I tried to make it like a show. There was I came up with the idea for the intro where I'd hold up the paper and I write the number on it, and then at the end I crumple it up, and every single if you watch when I throw, because I'll write the day on the paper, on the big pad of paper, and then I would crumple it up, and at the end of every episode I said, well, that's the end of day, say 58, and I'd throw it in the garbage can, and the garbage can has like a little note on it and what's supposed to happen with that garbage can and how it's that it's supposed to be disposed of that day. So for 100 episodes, I had to come up with, and that's when it got really hard towards the end, is coming up with 100 different different gags of what's going to happen with this, you know, with this garbage. Like one would be, you know, launch out into outer space. One would be, you know, shrink down with a shrink ray or whatever. Just all these different things. So, but yeah, it was fun to do, but it was a lot of work. So
that sounds fun at first, and then it sounds like having to come up with concept 85 of that. You're like,
Well, the other thing that you know, looking back, I'm like, how did I do this? Because the first round I was freelance, totally freelance, so I had a lot more time. The second round there's way more involved, but I was also working a full-time job, so yeah, I had to really plan everything out. So yeah, and there were some little cheats and things. There were some times where I would film days in advance, you know, and stuff like that. But you know, but yeah, it was fun to do. But like I said, I mean, unless you're a glutton for punishment, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
What about you, Noah? Like, did you have an easier time your second time?
Because I with my comic, and then as soon as I started getting into getting to the printed process, doing the Kickstarters, like it was all kind of rinse and repeat. But I think when I did the 30-day challenge last year, when I did, or 2 years ago, all of issue 7 in the month, like, because I had learned all these things about making videos, so I made the videos even better, and then was still putting the time in to do a page a day, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds hard. Hats off to you guys. That's amazing. And like, I think that's one of the cool things to be said for that anthology too. You know, it's like these are all people who like went through it. You know, and it's definitely not an easy task. You know, my thought on it is, you know, and this is at the get-go, but it's like I feel like that should be kind of our day anyway as cartoonists. You know. Like, we should be doing 30 minutes a day anyway, minimum, you know? But, but I think, like, the challenge is, it's got all these different things. Like, one is, like, it's a challenge to be publicly accountable. A lot of people who did the hundreds, like, started without a concept. Like, I feel like I have an advantage there, where I already have a script, you know? So it's like, I'm not having to come up with it from the ground up. Like, that's a super vulnerable place to put yourself. Like, when you're concepting, when you're coming up with an idea on camera, you know, on a daily basis. It's incredible. And what's cool is, like I was saying about the hundreds, is like some of these people, you know, it's their first comic, you know, their first like legit comic. And to me, it's so exciting to see that, because none of the comics in that look like first comics. You know, to me, that's amazing.
To that end, like, everybody brings their own chips to the table. Like, with you're starting midway in your comic, like, kind of not knowing what I'm doing and kind of getting a grasp for what I want. I think Kevin started with a real grasp of what he wanted to do, and it's kind of changed over the years. But and started with his laying out the process and starting the scripting and everything else. Like, there's such an eclectic mix of all the 100 Days that you can find where you're starting out. And I think this book lends to that, because with everybody's very different stories, you have everybody's different processes, and it's so amazing. And did we lose Josh?
Looks like we did.
Dun dun
Okay.
dun.
I was waiting for Josh to chime in, and well, hopefully he'll pop back on. Yeah, it's weird because we were having some technical difficulties in the beginning. Like we said, we couldn't get our lower thirds or anything to work or any of that stuff. So we'll hold on a little bit and see if we can get him to come back on. I mean, we're probably about 15
I imagine he's going to jump right in. Well, I can speak to what we were talking about before we started the stream. Is you guys asked me if I was going to do another 100 Days, and a little bit about that. I think I've kind of decided what I want to do is me making my own comic. I already work on my own comic hours a day, so it feels like cheating if I do the 100 Days right now. With Josh, he has his own career, and then he actually comes home to do his projects. So with me, my story I never forgot with my 100 Days. And with Holly doing it and Josh doing it, I really want the spotlight to be on them to see their process. And also I'm really enjoying their videos. But to that aspect, I want to have my own different story to work on for 100 Days and see how far I can get with it, just putting in 30 minutes a day along with all the work I put in on my own comic. So here I'll probably work at getting an iPad Pro and doing it digital, because I think that'll be a real throat jumping with my head first for, again, transitioning to digital, because I have no idea what I'm doing with digital, and I think learning that whole process will be ending with 100 Days for sure, for me anyway.
It's good to know that some of the younger guys aren't that keen on digital either. Because sometimes I just think maybe I'm just so old that, you know, not that I obviously I'm working digital right now. I mean, coloring anyway, but I'm just watching Josh's, you know, having trouble. He's messaging me, but yeah, I mean, I kind of want to, I thought about getting the whole iPad thing too, but I don't know. I mean, I've had problems before trying to, you know, saying that I'm going to move into digital with, you know, learning Clip Studio Pro and all that kind of stuff, and starting to, and then just reverting back to my old ways of doing everything traditionally. But it would be nice. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems, is that because it's kind of hard to do it like mobile, you know, take my artwork, as far as the comic books, and do it wherever. I mean, I bring my stuff, and on my lunch hour at work, I'll work on it. But I think if I had more of a portable thing where I could just do it wherever, just pull that iPad open and everything, and now that,
yeah, because I mean, we see that with Gaz. I mean, he started working on his third issue with his iPad, so there's got to be something to it if he can figure it out.
Yeah.
Not saying it's terrible, but it's awesome seeing him work away from his main studio. Yeah,
but he does everything digital though, for the most part. Yeah. So he's kind of in that sort of that ecosystem already. But yeah, I definitely know that if I just commit to it, like I mean, there's certain things I commit to and I do real well, but then that really wasn't one of them. But if I could just commit to it, then, you know, then I would, I'd probably make a lot more progress in the comic, because I know